Today we're going to work on doing division with decimals and also focusing on using benchmark fractions whenever it's possible. In class today, we went over this worksheet and we reviewed the examples at the top of the page. So I'm going to begin with this problem number 1 here. To do problem number 1, it's pretty much already worked out for you, but the goal is just to dust off the cobwebs from elementary school and try to make sure you remember how to read a division problem. So the original problem is 121 divided by 5, and if you forgot, remember the number you're dividing by, or the divisor, goes on the outside of the division problem, and the number that's being divided up goes in the inside. So when you work through this problem in class today, we figured out that the answer was 24 wholes with a remainder of 1. We talked about how in elementary school you would have written 24 remainder 1, maybe in 2nd grade or 3rd grade. But then as you got older, you did 24 and then 1/5 remainder over divisor. And then today, we put the answer in decimal form because you either have those memorized from grade school or you have to relearn them. And on the website is this benchmark fractions table. And what we're looking for is, what is 1/5? So 1/5 is the same as 2/10. We talked about that, imagining that 1 whole could be $1, and if you divide $1 into 5 parts, you would get 20 cents, which is the same as 2/10. And then you could count by jumps. 2/10. If you needed 2/5, you would have 4/10. If you needed 3/5, you would have 6/10, 8/10, and a whole. So we referenced this benchmark fraction chart quite a bit. But for this particular problem, we learned that 1/5 is 2/10. So right at that point, if you recognize that the decimal, then you could just write the answer. Similarly, on example 2, 23 divided by 4 is 30, remainder 3. That's what you did when you were really young. Then, when you were a little older, you wrote your answer in fraction form, 30 and 3/4. And many of you know that 3/4 is like 3/4, which is 75 cents. So you could go right to decimal form. But if you don't, pull out your benchmark fraction chart and look for fourths. And right here, we have 1/4 is 0.25 and 3/4 is 0.75. Because it's like 3/4 and 3/4 is 75 cents. Let's practice one that's not already finished. We're going to look at this problem, find the quotient and the remainder. Then write your own answer, or your answer in fraction and in decimal form. So I know that 2 goes into 8 4 times, and 2 times 4 is 8. So when I subtract, I get a 0, so I just bring down the 7. And again, this is review. Then we're going to continue dividing. 2 goes into 7 3 times. 2 times 3 is 6. 7 take away 6 is 1. Since the 2 is greater than the 1, and there is no more digits after the 7, I can write my answer in quotient and remainder form. 43 remainder 1. In decimal form, it would be 43 and 1/2. Because it's the remainder over the divisor. And we know that that's the same as 43.5. So this strategy of just jumping right to the decimal answer is useful whenever your divisor, the number outside, is a benchmark fraction. So at the top of this page, whenever your divisor is a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, and an 8, you can jump right to your decimal answer if you know your benchmark fractions, or a 10. The 6 is very, very difficult. So that one is really for the advanced student. But a lot of these are not that difficult. So let's go to this problem. I'll do 2 more problems. 5 goes into, it doesn't go into 1, so we say 5 into 18 is 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15. Subtract 8 take away 5, or 18 take away 15 is 3. Bring down the 2. 5 goes into 32 6 times. 5 times 6 is 30. Subtract. The 2 is smaller than the 5, so we're ready to write it in quotient and remainder form. The quotient's 36. The remainder is 2. So the fraction form answer is 36 and 2/5. And if you look at the benchmark fraction chart, if you don't have the 2/5 memorized, go to the benchmark fraction chart and find the fifths. We talked about this being like money. So if you break a dollar into 5 parts, a dollar into 5 parts is 20 cents. So 1/5 is 20 cents, 2/5 would be like 40 cents, or 0.4. So that brings us back here to the final answer to be 36.4. On this following problem, we repeat the process. 4 goes into 22 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract. 22 take away 20 is 2. Bring down the 5. 4 goes into 25 6 times. 6 times 4 is 24. Subtract. Bring down the 1. Or 25 take away 4 is 1. Bring down the 5. 4 goes into 15 3 times. 3 times 4 is 12. 15 take away 12 is 3. I'm ready to write my answer in quotient and remainder form. 563, remainder 3. 563 and 3/4, which is 563.75. You continue in that process tonight to answer all of the questions through problem 9. Once you pass problem 9, we talked about traditional division also in class. And just a summary, I know in elementary school you learned about multiplying out here. If this number is not a whole number, we multiply by a power of 10 to move the decimal place so it's all the way to the right of the number. That's what is going on over here. We're taking 1.625 and multiplying it by 1,000 to get 1,625, and we're just rewriting the problem without a decimal. But don't forget, if you move the decimal with the outside, you also have to move the decimal on the inside. So you have to think of this as 169.0, and then when you multiply by 1,000, you end up with 169,000, and then you begin traditional division. You're going to work hard for 30 minutes and come back with questions.